Good evening, it's Adam here again with another quick instant movie review for you. So, recently I caught John Wick Chapter 4. This film is once again directed by Chad Stahelski and stars Keanu Reeves as the ultimate killing machine, assassin mode. This picks up after the events of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, where John was pretty much, spoiler, left for dead, and he is going to go about trying to finally defeat the High Table, get his life back, and live a life where thousands of people aren't trying to kill him all the time. He thinks he's sorted out a solution, which ends up creating a bit of a chain of events that brings old friends out that now will turn into foes, and old foes into friends. So once again, we have, what's his name? Ian McShane back, as well as Lance Reddick, as well as Lawrence Fishburne. So a lot of the regulars are coming back into this one, and a new foe in Bill Skarsgård playing the Marquis, who is a senior member of the High Table that John has to try and sort out. Look, this film is very much, again, I like the other one, I suppose, a little bit of a race against the clock. John is definitely handed a bit of a challenge which he has to meet towards the latter part of the film. But on his journey to try and defeat the High Table and get his life back, he ventures from Osaka, where he connects with a few old friends, through to London, Paris, New York. The man goes everywhere. Berlin. There's a really great sequence in Berlin. So he does go everywhere in this film. It is a wide scope movie, and the director has mentioned that this is the biggest scope John Wick film. It's big on scope, it's big on action, it's big on runtime. And I suppose John Wick 4, we're going to look at it from two different sides of the fence. So technically, this film is brilliant. It has some of the best fight choreography and shootouts and stunt work that you're going to see in any motion picture. And I'm sure if there was an Academy Awards for stunties, then this would definitely sweep the pools. From the point of view of cinematography, this particular cinematography, Dan, I can't remember your last name, but he's worked with, done the last three John Wick films. So he did 2, 3, and 4. He has also worked with Guillermo del Toro, being Academy Award nominated for both Shape of Water and also Midnight Alley. Both great, really beautifully shot films. And I guess the latter of that, Midnight Alley, was a film noir style, where John Wick is a sort of a neo-noir, so they sit very nicely together in regards to the palette and the types of shots that are achieved. There's some beautiful shots in this, really, really cinematic. It definitely uses the scope of the cinema and of the big screen to really give you that big screen environment. There's some amazing shots from an overhead point of view. There's a great overhead shootout scene that is almost feels like a first or in-player video game of some description. I'm not a big video game guy, as you can probably tell. First person shooter, not first person, second person, I don't know, bird's eye, I don't know, just looks like a video game. Anyway, yeah, there's some amazing shots in nightclubs. Anyway, the film looks great. The editing on this film is really good as well. This is from Third Time Feature editor, who has previously worked on editing of The Samaritan, so the Sly Stallone film. I think his first big film was Afterlife, the Ghostbusters film, and he also worked on Cloverfield Lane. So, and some great editing in that. And interesting about those films is that they really allow the film to breathe. I think Afterlife very much is that as well, is that it wasn't all about snappy cuts here, look, I'm an editor. And it's really easier sometimes, I suppose, for editors to go, no, I really want people to see my editing technique, so I'm really going to make it really stylized, I'm going to make it this, going to make it that. And I guess the beautiful thing about the John Wick this John Wick film, and even Afterlife to a point, is that the edits are left to breathe. We've got room to really focus on what's happening in the scene. I'm thinking with John Wick, we're really looking at the fight choreography. This is a showcase for stunts. This is a showcase for action. So why do we need to introduce numerous cuts and numerous different angles of the same punch or the same kick, or cut away in order for the wires to come into play, or this or that? And it's a really smart way of directing, shooting and editing, and clearly the three all worked pretty closely together to get this result. So I guess and then the soundtrack as well, from the previous collaborators of the previous two John Wick films, have worked on this soundtrack, and they have created a really pulsing soundtrack that draws the action in very, very much so. The production design is beautiful. It's flawless. I think with every John Wick film, we're really, into this production design. It's almost quite sparse. Certain parts of the John Wick films have really focused on light, and there's a lot of great lighting in this. Light, scope, glass, reflections. So there's some really interesting use from that point of view of those aspects of production design. So how about the other side, Adam? What's the other side look like? Well, the other side looks a bit like this. It looks like a story which really doesn't have a lot on its plate. We've kind of know that where John Wick is. And this is the other thing. If you haven't seen the other John Wick films, I think you'll really walk into this going, what the hell is going on? Who are these people? What is this table? Why is it high? Why is it not a coffee table? A lot of stuff here, and you really, I think, need to have seen the other films to really get anything out of this, except for the fact that they're just really big action films. So I think you need to have seen the other movies. The story doesn't really progress, I don't feel like, anyway. I feel like it's just a natural progression to number 3, and we don't really build on much more of the lore. 3 really spent a lot of time building a lot more lore, and 2 really introduced us to the Continental and introduced us to the table, to the high table. And 3 sort of introduced a little bit more of the past and the back catalogue of John Wick and who he is. So this film kind of just leads towards a natural end, I suppose, and that's fine. We do introduce a few new characters in Kane, which was a compatriot of John from many moons ago, who's a bit of a friend but also a bit of a foe. So we've got that going on. There's a lot, and there's not much. So story, I don't feel it really progresses a lot more. Bill Skarsgård's French accent feels like it's out of Hello, Hello. Hello, Hello. If you don't know what that is, it's an English sitcom from the late 80s. And very much played on the bad French accents. And Bill Skarsgård's French. I mean, why don't you just get a French actor to do it, honestly? He's quite sinister. There's some good little sinister moments. He's got an amazing wardrobe. Well, props to the costume department. Wow, fantastic. But I mean, the gentleman who plays the tracker, I've just forgotten his name. All my names have been thrown out the window. He's great. He's really good, and he gets the good time with the dog. In fact, I'd like to see a spin-off just with him, because I thought he was really great and charismatic, and it was really interesting to watch on screen. And Keanu does what Keanu does, and he does it extremely well. I just feel like this film doesn't. It has some huge set pieces, right? Huge. But it feels very repetitive. It feels very long. This is a nearly 3-hour-long film. And where I said before it was great that we don't cut away in a lot of these shots, that's fine. But the fight sequences go for like 20 minutes. they're long fight sequences, and they become quite overpowering after a while, like this review probably, that they just become too much. Like your senses are bashed around quite a lot, especially if you're going to go and see this in a big cinema with big sound and big screen. It's going to be a lot, you know. You're really going to just want to, sometimes you just need to take a bit of a break. And this film doesn't really, it's quite relentless. It has sort of about 6 big action set pieces in nearly 3 hours. So there's not a huge amount of downtime. There's some amazing sequences, don't get me wrong. I think the stair sequence at the end is one of my favorites. The scene in Beirut, I feel like could have been a little bit shorter, as is the scene in Osaka. I think could have been shortened. The stuff around the Arc de Triomphe was an amazing feat all on its own to be able to get that staged where it is, and I think Tom Cruise will be showing us also a little bit of that type of action in the next Dead Reckoning and next Mission Impossible. So a good feat from that point of view, again technical, and again I think that could have been shortened. So there's a lot of stuff in here that really didn't need to be in there. There's lots of sub-stories set up for future bits and pieces. But yeah, I just this film to me just felt like it's 45 minutes too long. That's really it. I've nothing against the action. The technical prowess is phenomenal. Everyone involved does an amazing job. Keanu has really thrown himself out there once again and done some phenomenal stuff. Just to me, it felt like way too much. It could have been another film. It almost could have been John Wick 5. But they've really just pushed the boat out on this and try to put everything in one film, and it kind of feels like too much. So yeah, I did enjoy John Wick 4 a lot for a lot of the technical reasons, but I just think that overlong run was probably the thing that really hit me home. So after 12 minutes, one of my longest reviews, I think you get the picture that I enjoyed John Wick 4, but I really feel like it was a way too long. So John Wick 4, in my book, would get 6.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Just wish it was shorter. All right. Good night.